Morning, guys. 7.3s and I'd say 88s, but I don't see any women out there. They might be hiding behind a black screen. So morning, everybody. Thanks for an opportunity to talk about Starlink. Starlink's an important part of what we do in the world in amateur radio. Kind of give you just a short background of why I'm a Starlink fan. Been an amateur radio operator for probably close to 30 years. I haven't actually looked at the numbers. Have done many mutual aid events, including Baker to Vegas run, parades, races, horse races. Just really hasn't been one that I haven't done, and they're a lot of fun. But as we can all tell by Zooming nowadays, communications has definitely changed other than just tracking who's where and what, video, Wi-Fi calling. So internet is really an important thing to have. So with that said, I'm going to give some cases of what I have done with Starlink in the last year. There's a couple of events that I started out with Field Day last year. I loaned it to a friend of mine that took it out to a remote spot, used it for Field Day. Field Day, we all understand, is all radios, but with that radios, there's still a lot of communications in the background, on the internet. That was very helpful. Used it for a couple of runs recently up through the mountains and down through the deserts. Into last year, it was very cold. Worked with Rob. We did a run up through Cuyamacas. I was up there and just past the one of the camps, sitting in the trees, and pulled Starlink out and found a shot through the trees where I could enable internet, gave people Wi-Fi calling. So that allowed the people that weren't hams to stay checked in with their loved ones and with their races. So that, it's an important part. So we can deliver the information between one another, but if we can help people deliver information between each other, Starlink's a big part of that. And then ham radio can be the failover on that. So it's just one of the many tools that we need doing what we do in mutual aid kind of stuff. So with that said, I want to touch on another ISP, so a FirstNet. So if you guys haven't been familiar with FirstNet, that's put together by AT&T. They want to put people on it. FirstNet has a special frequency and a chip. If that frequency is not available, it gives priority to first responders. I classify what we do as kind of a first responder support, or maybe a second responder, because most of us aren't paid for doing what we do. But if you have an ID that says you're a support in a supporting role, if you go to an AT&T store and you tell them, hey, we support first responders, you got an ID that says you're with some agency, I haven't heard anybody give in trouble or having any trouble getting a FirstNet card or cell phone. Just look into it, Google it, look into it. That's if you have cell phone coverage, that's good. And then Starlink works really good for backup where there's no cell phone coverage. So those two together pretty much will ensure you're going to have internet more times than not. And then the most important thing about having internet is enabling Wi-Fi calling there again. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, most people, it's amazing to me, even in my own business, my own network where we provide internet, how many people still today don't understand that Wi-Fi calling is available on all cell phone carriers. A lot of times you have to enable it before you go out and need it. But it's a handy tool that wants to verify your address, make sure your carrier supports it. And then when you can be in the middle of nowhere on a Starlink type scenario, or if one carrier doesn't have internet and the other one does, then they can share your internet connection and use Wi-Fi calling to stay in communications with people. So it's kind of Starlink, it's kind of FirstNet, it's kind of Wi-Fi calling. Anybody have any questions on that? And I'm going to tell you some things I've learned about Starlink. Does anybody have any like application questions or scenarios or anything like that? Anybody not know who Starlink is? Anybody not know who Elon Musk is? Didn't think so. So a couple of things I've learned with Starlink. It's really user-friendly. I mean, out of the box, you plug it in, it's app-based, you point it to the sky, you power it up, you have internet. It's just what they've done with their software team is really amazing. They don't have a support phone number. They have an app. You log in your app, you send them a message, and last time I did it, it took them 2 days to reply to me. They did call me from a phone number, which I saved. I'm thinking I was ahead of the game, where I'd call that number back and that number says, "You reach our support, please fill out a request in your app." So maybe he'll work on that one day with a supporting phone number. They pretty much on their website have everything you'll need, like mounts. I have mounts on my work truck. I have mounts on my toy hauler, where they just slide in there, clip in there, and you can deploy it so quick. I mean, just within a few minutes, you can power the thing up. And pretty much if you've got a shot to the northern facing skies, most TVs are south facing. This is a northern facing, at least in our area. It's always pointed to the north. Everything he does is expensive and proprietary. His connectors are proprietary, his mounts are proprietary. The only thing that is industry standard is it's a 120 volt AC plug. If you want to go off grid with it, DC, there are some people that are doing some ways of doing that. Elon Musk hasn't come out with anything yet, last check, that you can pretty much plug it in your cigarette lighter and make it, 48 volt PoE. I'm going to try to stay away from the technical side of it. Kind of keeping this on the light side. The one thing I would recommend if you are deploying it remotely, have a spare cable, have a spare long cable. Factory cable 75 feet, you can get an extra 150-foot cable. For me, I have it permanently installed on my house as a backup because I'm in rural America out here in Humboldt. And then when I go to an event, I simply just pull the dish and the modem or router off and put it in my trailer, but I still have a wire in my attic permanently mounted onto the roof. So it makes it easy to swap out. So if you plan on deploying it in multiple places, have some extra cables. With the cables, they're very fragile. I just dropped one on the ground, rolling it up and dented it where it wouldn't actually fit back into the dish. So got to be careful with those. The connectors are fragile, but the dish itself seems to be pretty heavy duty. So that is my short version on Starlink. Anybody have any questions? I've worked with several of you over the years on many ham radio projects. Enjoy it. Ham radio for you newbies is a good way to learn stuff. There's not anybody I've ever worked with wasn't able to just sit down and teach you something, or maybe even just learn it together. So with that said, anybody have any questions, application questions that are light on the technical side?
Yeah. How do you transport it? Is it pretty compact? Do you have a little case for it, or?
Good question. So Elon Musk make a very expensive case. I'm transporting it. The dish is roughly, I'd probably say 10 inches wide, maybe 14 inches long. You do a thing in stow mode where it's automatic. So you have the dish and you have the arm, and when you put it in stow mode before you power it off, it'll actually collapse pretty compact. You don't need the $250 case. Just, carry it like an HF radio and your wire. So it takes up probably a little more, about the same room as a portable HF radio, a tuner, and a long wire. So you just kind of put it in a plastic box and treat it gentle.
K1CT with a question. Question is obviously lots of electronics associated with Starlink. Have you experienced any RFI problems with your ham radio from the Starlink system?
You know what? I haven't, and I have a lot of stuff on my roof where that thing sits at. The biggest interference I've seen is the license-free Wi-Fi stuff I use. That hasn't interfered with Starlink, but that stuff interferes with radios all the time. I mean, from Humboldt to the Campo repeater, it just jams out 2 meters. So that is a good question. But for Starlink in itself, I haven't seen any interference issues on VHF or UHF, but I have not put it next to any HF stuff.
All right, I can follow
Marty,
up.
go ahead. Let's have Marty go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Eric, thanks for giving that presentation.
Yeah.
Question, have you tried using it in a strictly mobile setting, how well it would work while you're moving in your truck?
Marty, that's a good question. I'm following all those guys on YouTube, which sounds like you might have. It's interesting to me that Elon Musk recently made mobility available in an RV, on a boat. There's a guy, the boat one has 2 dishes on it. And so you see him using it, and you see these dishes with these plastic gears in there that automatically adjust and move and tilt towards a satellite. And they're on a boat out in the ocean, and they're just doing this. I'm like, well, how long is that gonna last? That doesn't make sense. And then you have other guys that have tested the fact that it has a beamforming antenna in it. So they've actually taken it between two chairs and just set it in two chairs. And, you know, the arm tries to adjust, but it doesn't adjust, but it still connects. And then there's another guy that actually builds a mount that ties it to a Jeep. And they all claim it works, but you know, if Elon designed it to line up to a satellite, to the best satellite for his software, something's telling me don't mess with it. So that's kind of, it works, but does it work better if it can, you know, what it was intended to line up to the satellite it needs to? So I haven't messed with that part of it, but I know I've seen people that have.
Okay, thanks.
Mike, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, questions regarding the cost. What is the standard cost per month on this? And also, do they give any sort of rates or deals regarding if it's for emergency services or for repeater backup, any of that kind of thing?
Good questions. Last I checked, the equipment was $600. That's with comes with a home router. And then the monthly service is $110 a month, and then you can add portability to it for another 20 or 25. I think it's 110. My last bill was 135, so I think portability is 25. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. I'd recommend looking at starlink.com for that. I haven't seen any discounts like FirstNet. I haven't seen him work with anybody. He is the Porsche of broadband. But it works good. The latency works good, so he gets big money for it. Yeah, I would like to see him do a discount for mutual aid or for, you know, for like what FirstNet's doing. I mean, if you look at the FirstNet pricing, yeah, the two takeaways I would say today is look at FirstNet, and then look at make sure your phone has Wi-Fi calling. Those are the two takeaways I want everybody to take from today. So as far as pricing, it's pricey. But in life you get what you pay for. So, but the portability of it it's awesome.
Noel, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. How long did it take for you to get it after the your purchase? I heard there was a wait time for that.
Yeah. So my first purchase was over a year. I understand that that's a lot quicker now. I've heard stories being an ISP here in Humboldt. A lot of people switch to it as the latest and greatest, and I've heard people get it within a week. Normally it's less than a month, kind of what I'm hearing. It isn't really available for prime time for full residential. We've had some people come back from it, but if it's a secondary internet connection or you're not doing a lot of streaming, it should work good for you. I think I answered your question. I see Gary's with his finger up. Is that a hand, Gary?
Yeah, I was just trying to get attention. I wasn't talking to people
Yeah.
that way. Yeah, if you get interested in it, they'll tell you you have to have a clear sky all around you and everything. In this area, you need a clear sky to the north. And as near as I can tell, you need a 25-degree angle with nothing sticking up that'll block it. Like if you have a mast sticking up between you and where their satellites are north of here, it might be a problem. But you only need clearance in the direction where the satellites are, and around here that'd be north. And if you get that thing and unpack it, if you don't have it on the air permanently installed in 15 minutes, you don't know what you're doing, because it's incredibly easy to set that thing up and be on the air with it, or on the internet with it.
And I think Gary's going to bring his out to his next race. He's going to take it off his house and bring it, right, Gary?
I was going to ask you, what's the rules on taking that thing portable? I think you might be able to do it on any one day, but I think they might shut you down if you did it regularly, but I don't know that.
So my understanding, the footprint's about 10 miles. So if you exceed from that beam pattern of 10 miles, you have to have portability enabled, which is an extra $25 a month.
I probably should update to the portability, since I do emergency stuff then.
Yeah.
You know.
See what I just did?
Can you switch a portability on and off? Is that a billing thing? 1 month yes, 1 month no?
Last I checked, you can. You can also do an RV plan where you can have it on for a month and then off for a few months. But the RV plans don't give you priority access. Now, keep in mind, these are things that I've last looked into, and Elon Musk is always changing it. So definitely look at his website, what he's talking about. So my installation is set at my house. My house is my permanent IP address or permanent service address. And then with the $25 a month, I have portability added to it, but it doesn't give me a priority where I'm at. But I'm not really doing anything I need priority, and I'm normally in the middle of the desert. So it works good for us, what we do. Mr. Williams, I see a hand up.
Yeah, how come you're so smart?
Let me see. I do a lot of YouTube videos.
That's my son, everybody, in case you don't know.
Morning, Pops. How are you? Good to see you on there.
Fantastic. Q5 in Campo.
Anybody else have any questions there? Application based, worst case scenarios. It seems to always work for me, and enjoy deploying it in ham radio events and mutual aid stuff.
I'll
Eric,
throw
have
a
you
couple.
noticed that it's affected by weather at all?
I haven't seen it affected by weather. I've actually done some ping tests during the pouring down rain. It stayed connected. So I don't use it full time at my house, but I've tested it enough to say it would be reliable during heavy rain. And during snow, it actually has a heater element in it that will actually melt the snow off the dish.
Question from KK6FRK.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey there. Yeah, when you were speaking with somebody in real time from Starlink, did they explain to you about some of the other options, the business class option compared to the consumer class that it appears what you have?
They didn't talk about options. I've noticed that he has a business class. It's supposed to be a bigger dish, priority access with a ridiculous amount of money. I think that starts at $500. That's kind of like what some governments are doing. That's just out of my price range. So there are, like I said, he's always adding stuff, but he is big money. And the last email I got from him, he said, if you were in a oversold, he used the word saturated market, we're going to charge you $10 a month more. If you're in a market that is undersold, underutilized, then your internet's going to be $20 or less. Okay, so that didn't make sense to me, but that's how he does things.
Yeah, we're experimenting with the Starlink stuff too, the consumer, the professional, and their maritime. And we haven't had any discussions with them about first responder use or organizations like ARES, but next time we are able to speak with somebody in real time, we'll ask the question.
Yeah, keep the group informed on it. It'd be nice to get like a FirstNet type of thing or a priority access, or even if you donate some stuff. So I know it's helpful during Ukrainian war. I actually consulted with a group that built some links for the hospital out there, where they want to hide, the signals and where to put them and how to beam the patterns to other hospitals. And that was a fun project. That was about 4 months in the Ukrainian war. I sat down with one of their engineers, and he had quite the project ahead of him.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, the big difference for us anyway, with the professional versus consumer is you get a fixed routable IP address if you ask for that in the provisioning. So thanks for doing this presentation. Our experience has been similar to yours. It's pretty much plug and play, and we're testing on maritime as well as on terrestrial internationally. So thanks a bunch.
Yep. Thanks for being here. Anybody? Rob, thanks for asking me to be a speaker. Hopefully filled some people in on stuff. Remember, FirstNet, Wi-Fi calling. Everybody should have Wi-Fi calling enabled on their phone and their carrier. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much for presenting.
Yep, 73s, 88s.
Thank you very much. I just took a quick look at their website, and for the business class, it's $250 a month and a initial fee of $2,500. So it is a little more expensive when you go business class.
Hey,
All right,
Bruce,
very
any
good.
follow-up?
Any additional questions for Eric before we are wrapping that segment up?
Yeah, quick question. Can you tell us more about your go-to kit? When you actually pull it out in the field, what other accessories do you take with you?
So I feed it with AC. I have a Yeti.
Oh,
Anywhere I go, I normally need 110 volts power somewhere, but the Yeti, if nobody's played with the lithium ion battery packs, Costco's got some stuff, not from the Yeti brand or the Gold Zero brand, but I like those. I got turned on to those when SDG was giving them away. I think my dad's got one. It's amazing. It'll actually run the Starlink dish for 3 days with the wireless access point. But were we really off power for 3 days without running an inverter generator to keep stuff charged up? So my Go kit, it's an expensive one. I think it's a $12 plastic box from Home Depot, and I neatly put it in there and I transport it from my garage to my toy hauler or work truck. So like I said, it's kind of like throwing your HF radio and a tuner in a box. So it's pretty flexible. I don't have anything fancy set up. But you can get a $250 fancy box from Elon Musk on his website. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't see any more hands up.
Thanks, guys.